I have $0 in the bank, no land, no tractor, nothing to my name. But in this series, I'm going to build a full-blown farming empire from absolutely nothing. Every single dollar will be earned legit. No cheats, no shortcuts, just pure hustle. And today's mission, make our very first $1,000. There's really only one way to start, contract work. I mean, let's be real. We can't even afford to buy a shovel right now. So it's time to grind, take whatever jobs we can find, and slowly build our way up from rock bottom. There were 2 fertilizing contracts available, but I couldn't accept them because I didn't have any money to buy fertilizer up front. Without fertilizer, I couldn't complete the jobs, so I had no choice but to wait for other contracts to appear, ones that didn't require any initial investment. Eventually, a contract popped up to harvest Field 62, which was ready for an oat harvest. The contract payout was just under $3,000, and after leasing the equipment, I'd be left with a profit of around $2,000. Not the biggest win, but I had no choice. I had to start somewhere. This would be my first real step forward. I didn't waste a second. I jumped into the harvester and headed straight to the field. Since I didn't have enough money to hire an AI worker, I had to do everything myself. That's just how it is at the beginning. Once I start making more money, I'll be able to delegate some of this work. After finishing the harvest, I transported the crops to the farmer's market to sell the leftover oats. That alone earned me just under $1,200 on top of the contract pay. Not bad for the first day of work. With the money from the harvest, I finally had enough to buy some fertilizer and take on fertilizing contracts. These are some of the easiest and most profitable jobs early on. I accepted 3 contracts on fields 21, 23, and 30, and picked up 1,000 liters of solid fertilizer from the store. Once those fields were fertilized, I collected the payouts from the contracts, just over $8,000 total. I even saved the leftover fertilizer for future contracts by unloading it back at the store. The same field I harvested earlier, field 62, now needed cultivating. I accepted that contract as well, which brought in around $2,000. After that, I picked up a rock removal contract for $2,300. More fertilizing contracts started appearing, so I accepted a few more, bringing in an additional $6,500. Next, I took on a stone picking contract that earned me $3,800, and I also sold the stones I collected from the field, making an extra $500. After that, I accepted a bale wrapping contract on field 45 that brought in $5,000. At this stage, I didn't have many options. I just had to keep grinding out contract after contract to build up enough money to finally buy my first piece of land. That was the goal for today. I accepted a bunch of smaller jobs, fertilizing, stone picking, and then a big one landed, harvesting field 91 with canola. The contract itself was worth $11,700, which made it my highest-paying job so far. I immediately jumped into the harvester and even hired an AI worker to help with the field. After delivering the harvest to the selling point, I also sold the leftover canola and earned an extra $7,300. Not bad at all. Right after that, I picked up another big contract, fertilizing Field 77 for $9,600. I continued hammering out job after job, harvesting, fertilizing, and more. I also sold leftover crops from the contracts, which added even more to the bank account. Another big contract came in, baling on Field 88, which paid me $10,000. I kept going, stacking contract after contract, determined to save enough money to finally buy a piece of land, and hopefully a house too, so I wouldn't have to sleep under the stars. Eventually, after a full day of hustling, I managed to stack up $182,000. After a lot of thinking and scanning the map, I decided to buy farmland 54 for $145,000. Why that field specifically? You'll have to wait for the next episode to find out the plan I've got brewing. But here's the catch. Buying the land left me with only $36,400 in the bank, not enough to buy a house. And I wasn't about to sleep on the grass. So, I went right back to work. After grinding out a few more contracts, I earned just over $55,000, which was exactly what I needed to buy a farmhouse. Mission accomplished. Today, we've got a new mission. Buy our first tractor and start putting our money to work. With just $1,700 in the bank, this won't be easy. Let's get to work. The first contract that came in was perfect. Harvesting peas on Field 6. The payout? $4,600 just from the contract, not including any leftover crops I can sell. I wasted no time. Jumped in the harvester, drove straight to the field, and hired an AI worker to handle the job. While that was going, I picked up another contract, harvesting spinach on Field 25. That one alone was worth $8,000, plus extra from the leftover spinach. The AI handled the harvests while I transported the crops to the selling points. Back and forth, over and over. But it was worth it. Next up, another pea harvest on Field 66. This one was smooth. I didn't even lease new equipment, just reused the harvester from Field 6. That decision saved me $600 and earned me $1,700 from the contract. Momentum was building, so I kept pushing. I earned $6,500 from harvesting sorghum on Field 19, followed by $900 from cultivating Field 66. Then I brought in another $4,900 from fertilizing Field 84, and a combined $11,300 from fertilizing Fields 13 and 76. I squeezed in another sorghum harvest for $6,700, plus a fertilizing job on Field 71 for $900. And the list goes on. I was in full grind mode. After a few hours of back-to-back contracts, I had saved up nearly $130,000. Time to start thinking like a real farmer. I wanted some of that money to work for me. So I made my first real investment. 2 greenhouses. These will passively generate income by producing lettuce, one of the most profitable greenhouse crops in the game. But greenhouses need water. So I picked up a $25,000 water trailer. Using a tractor from one of the contract jobs, I hauled the trailer back to my land and began filling up the greenhouses. Now I had just $32,000 left in the bank. That's not enough for a decent tractor that can actually carry us long term. And I really wanted to hit my goal today. Buy my first tractor. So I went back to work. More cultivating, more mowing, more harvesting. And after a final push, I reached $95,000. Enough. I went to the dealership and bought the Deutz-Fahr Agrostar 8.31, a 230 horsepower beast for just $89,500. In my opinion, this is the best bang-for-your-buck medium tractor in FS25. It's powerful, reliable, and can handle pretty much anything I throw at it. I drove it back to the farm, and that first drive just hits different. I've got just under $17,000 in the bank, and my goal is to level up. That means more cash, more assets, and more opportunities to make passive income. Let's get to work. Right off the bat, a contract popped up to cultivate Field 43. Without hesitation, I leased the tractor, attached the cultivator, and got straight to the field. Then I hired an AI worker to handle the labor while I moved on to plan my next move. Soon after, I found a stone picking contract that paid $2,000. On top of that, I sold the stones I collected for an extra $280. Not huge, but every dollar counts when you're starting from scratch. Next, I grabbed 2 plowing contracts. Between them, I made another $3,600. Steady progress. But then, something special. A contract came in for harvesting cotton on Field 76. It paid nearly $16,000 just from the contract itself. That's huge. I immediately sent my trusted AI worker to handle the harvest. Once the field was done, I loaded up the cotton bales and delivered them to the farmer's market. And here's the wild part. I earned an extra $22,200 from the leftover cotton. This was a massive boost and pushed me even closer to my next big goal. After that win, I kept the momentum going. More contracts rolled in. Cultivating, another round of cotton harvesting, and even harvesting spinach on Field 55. Some of those jobs paid over $10,000. Insane for contract work. By the end of the day, I had grinded my way up to $135,600. But I wasn't stopping there. I skipped ahead to November and jumped right back into the grind. First job, a mowing contract on Field 12. It paid $2,700 ongoing. But get this, I didn't even mow. The contract auto-completed thanks to a glitch, and I got paid anyway. Hey, I'm not complaining. At this point, yeah, it might seem repetitive. Contracts, contracts, contracts. But this is the reality of building something from nothing. You've got to push through the grind to earn the freedom later. To keep the greenhouses producing lettuce, I refilled them with water. It's not much money yet, but with more greenhouses, that passive income is going to stack up. And with $150,000 in the bank, it was finally time to make a bold move. I dropped just under $100,000 on a stone crusher. Now, you might be wondering, was this a good idea? That's up for debate, so let me know in the comments. But I think it's going to pay off. I also set up a selling point next to it and bought a $5,000 belt to automate sales. I've got one more big idea for this setup, but right now, I don't have the funds, so you'll have to stay tuned for that. With just under $40,000 left, it was back to the grind. Because I'm always doing fertilizing jobs, I decided to buy a solid fertilizer spreader for $25,000. Now I don't have to lease equipment for those contracts, saving money in the long run. I accepted another fertilizing contract, bought some fertilizer, and hit the fields again. And let me tell you, I was running out of money fast, so I went into full grind mode, contract after contract, lettuce selling from the greenhouses, and stone sales from the crusher. Eventually, I climbed back up to $85,300. But instead of sitting on the cash, I reinvested. Two more greenhouses costing me $72,000 dropped my balance to $13,000, right where I started this episode. Feels like no progress, right? Wrong. With more greenhouses and automated stone sales, my passive income is growing fast. I refilled the new greenhouses with water, set them to produce lettuce, and accepted two final contracts to finish the day. I wrapped up with $38,700 in the bank and a whole lot more potential than when I started. So here's what we accomplished today. We made tens of thousands from smart contracts, bought a stone crusher, and added two more greenhouses to ramp up passive income. The grind continues. It's December, and I'm starting off with just $62,000 in the bank. Time to hustle. First thing I did was sell the stones that the stone crusher produced overnight. That gave me just over $3,000. Then I accepted a contract to cultivate Field 52, which would bring in $3,700. So I jumped into the tractor, headed to the field, and hired an AI worker to take care of it. Next, a plowing contract popped up. That one would earn me $6,600. Same process again, drove over to the field and let an AI worker handle it. After that, a few more contracts became available. One of them was cultivating Field 51, right next to the one I was already working on. That paid $6,400. Then came a big one, cultivating Field 38 for $12,000. That was insane. So I kept grinding contracts, both plowing and cultivating, and soon I had over $120,000 in the bank. I knew I needed to reinvest that money smartly. The easiest decision was to expand my greenhouses. I bought 3 more, transported water to them, and set them up to produce lettuce. By the end of December, I had $12,500 left in the bank. There wasn't much else to do, so I slept through to January. When I woke up, the greenhouses had produced overnight, and I now had $65,000 in the bank. Just like before, the first thing I did in January was sell the stones from the stone crusher. Then I decided to purchase one more greenhouse, bringing my total to 8. After taking care of all my tasks on the farm, I moved on to contract work. The only one available in January was a rock removal job on Farmland 86, paying $1,800. But that was it. Since it's winter, there's not much to do, so I relied on my passive income sources, the greenhouses and the stone crusher. By the end of the day, I had just under $83,000 in the bank. This is exactly why I made these investments. During slow months like this, they keep the money flowing. Fast forward to February. I woke up and there was snow on the ground. So I followed my routine, sold the stones from the stone crusher, filled up the greenhouses with water, and made sure lettuce production was going strong. With just under $140,000 in the bank, I decided it was time to make another investment. I had a few options: keep expanding greenhouses or diversify. I chose to diversify and invested around $80,000 into a chicken coop. I also bought 360 baby chicks, which cost me just under $2,200. But there was one problem: I had no food for the chickens. So I had to improvise. I went to the store and bought a trailer that could haul grain and also carry pallets when the chickens start producing eggs. That cost me $31,000. Then, I bought 8,000 liters of wheat for $12,000. I know it's probably not the most cost-effective way to feed them, but I might change that later. I hitched up the trailer, loaded the wheat, and drove it back to the coop. I made sure the chickens had everything they needed to start growing and hopefully producing eggs soon. What do you think? Was this a smart investment or not? Let me know in the comments below. Since it's still winter, there wasn't much more to do. I ended February with $57,000 and called it a day. I woke up in March and went straight into my daily routine. Checked on the greenhouses, filled them with water, sold the stones, and looked after the chickens. Then it was time for contracts. First job was fertilizing Field 29, which paid just under $1,000. Not much, but it was a good way to start the day. Then came a better one, wrapping bales on Field 11, which paid $5,000. I kept grinding contracts all day. plowing, fertilizing, bale wrapping, and more. After a full day of work, my bank balance hit just over $170,000. So I decided to invest in another field. I bought Farmland 36 for $118,000. You might be wondering why. Well, buying food for the chickens all the time won't be sustainable. My plan is to grow it myself. In the long run, this should be way more profitable. Did I make the right call? Let me know in the comments. That wrapped up March, and I ended the day with $54,000 in the bank. Straight into April. As usual, I started with my daily routine, selling stones, checking greenhouses, transporting water, and looking after the chickens. Field 36, the one I bought in March, was already cultivated. All I had to do now was plant it. Since it's April, the only crop I could plant that chickens eat was sorghum. Wheat and barley are planted in other months. If you know which of the three, sorghum, wheat, or barley, is best for chickens, let me know in the comments. I bought a planter for $59,000 and some seeds. Then, I hired an AI worker to plant sorghum on field 36. After that, I accepted fertilizing contracts on fields 13 and 30, which brought in another $4,800. I did several more fertilizing jobs and ended April with $98,500. Then came May. Same routine, daily checkups, then straight into contracts. At the start, I took on 2 fertilizing jobs that paid $3,300. I did more of them throughout the day, including one that paid just over $7,000. That's pretty much all that happened in May. But thanks to the greenhouses and the stone crusher, I finished the day with $221,000. In June, I kept the same routine but had one extra task, buying more food for the chickens. I hitched up the trailer and drove to the store to buy another 8,000 liters of wheat for $12,000. Hopefully that's the last time I need to buy chicken feed because in August, the sorghum will be ready for harvest. I think field 36 is big enough to feed them for a whole year. Back to contract grinding. I did multiple jobs, mowing, bale wrapping, and more. One contract stood out. Harvesting spinach on field 87, which paid $8,600 after leasing the equipment. Plus, I sold the leftover crops for extra income. While browsing the store, I found a baler on sale in the used section for more than half off the new price. I grabbed it for $58,400. It comes with a wrapper on the back that wraps the bales automatically. Super helpful if I start doing grass in the future. That was it for June. I ended the month with $273,000. Now into July, the final month of year 1 and starting from zero. I did my usual tasks, set up the stone crusher to sell stones, checked on the chickens, and watered the greenhouses. Then it was time for more contract work, fertilizing, baling, cultivating. A really productive day with lots of high-paying jobs. My bank account grew to $372,000. The chickens produced 4 pallets of eggs, totaling 4,000 liters. I loaded them onto the trailer and sold them at the bakery, earning $13,300. Not bad at all for the first few months. Before the sun went down, I accepted 2 more contracts to harvest peas on fields, 55 and 78. These would bring in $10,000 from the jobs, plus income from the leftover crops. Now here's something interesting. Since I planted sorghum on field 36, I'll need a harvester in August. But imagine if the game let you hire another farmer to harvest your field for you, just like a contract job. You'd pay them instead of buying your own harvester. I know buying one is better in the long run, but it would be such a great feature. Anyway, I saw a harvester in the used section for half price and bought it for just under $120,000. I'll get the header and other equipment in the next episode. Back to the pea harvest on field 78. I made an additional $11,600 from the leftover crops. We're ending the season with almost $313,000. Not bad at all, considering we started from nothing. That wraps up the first season. If you enjoyed this episode, please like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode in the next season. If you want to rewatch the earlier episodes, there's a full playlist ready for you. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.